Hello, welcome to the second part of our tutorial on decimals. In this video, we're going to talk about how to subtract decimal numbers. So let's start with a simple example. What is 9.6 minus 3.4? Remember, we need to line up the two numbers just as we did in the first tutorial. And when you line it up, make sure that the decimal points are lined up. And then after that, just go ahead and subtract it. So, subtract it column by column. 6 minus 4 is 2. And then in the second column, we have 9 minus 3, which is 6. So the answer for the first example is simply 6.2. Let's work on some harder examples. Let's say we have 8.5. Let's subtract it by 6.23. So here we have a 2-digit number. And here we have a 3-digit number. So how can we line up these two numbers correctly? So remember, when lining up the two numbers, make sure that the decimal points are lined up correctly. Now, to make it look better, instead of writing 8.5, we can write 8.50. Now, what is 0 minus 3? 0 minus 3 is a negative number, so we're going to have to borrow a 1 from the 5. So the 5 becomes a 4, and the 0 becomes a 10. So now we have 10 minus 3, which is 7. And then it's 4 minus 2, which is 2. And finally, 8 minus 6 is 2. So the final answer for this example is 2.27. Now, what about subtracting a decimal number by a whole number? What result will we get here? The quick and simple method to subtract two numbers in this format is you could just subtract 8 by 5. 8 minus 5 is 3, and so the answer is going to be 3.3. Now, if you want to do it the safe way, you can simply line up the numbers. Now, instead of writing 5, we can write 5.0. And so we can do 3 minus 0, which is 3, and 8 minus 5, which is also 3. This is the technique to apply to this type of situation. Now, instead of subtracting a decimal number by a whole number, let's subtract a whole number by a decimal number. So we can't just subtract 9 by 4 and say it's 5, because the 0.2 will decrease the 5 even further. Now, if you want to do it mentally in your head, you could do it this way. 9 minus 4 is 5, and then you have to say 5 minus 0.2, which is 4.8. That could work. But let's do it the old school way. 9 minus 4.2. So instead of writing 9, we need to write 9.0. Now, let's borrow 1 from the 9, making it 8, and let's transfer the 1 to the 0, changing it into a 10. We can now subtract 10 by 2, which will give us 8, then the 8 here minus 4, which will give us 4. And so you get 4.8. Let's work on a harder example. Let's subtract 7.5 by 4.368. So all we need to do is add a few zeros here. That's it. So first, let's borrow a 1 from this 0. So that becomes a 9, which means we need to borrow a 1 here. So that becomes a 4. And this changes into a 10. So 10 minus 8 is 2. And then after that, we have 9 minus 6, which is 3. And then 4 minus 3 is 1. And for the last one, it's just 7 minus 4, which is 3. And so we get this answer, 3.132. Now, what if we're doing a subtraction problem with three numbers, like this problem? 6.32 minus 3.451 minus 1.6. In a situation like this, I recommend subtracting two numbers at a time. So let's start with these two. So 6.32 minus 3.451. Let's add a 0. So we can't do 0 minus 1, so let's borrow a 1. Let's make this a 10. So 10 minus 1 will give us 9. And then we can't do 1 minus 5 because that's going to give us a negative number. So let's borrow a 1 from the 3, making that a 2. And the 1 becomes 11 on the right. So 1 minus 5 is 6. And we can't do 2 minus 4, so we need to borrow a 1 again, making the 6 a 5, changing the 2 to 12. Now, 12 minus 4 is 8, and 5 minus 3 is 2. And if you have a calculator, you can just confirm it. And so 6.32 minus 3.451 is indeed 2.869. So now, let's replace the first two numbers with 2.869. And so let's subtract that by 1.6. So 9 minus 0 is 9, 6 minus 0 is 6, 8 minus 6 is 2, 2 minus 1 is 1. Thus, the final answer is 1.269. And so that's what you can do if you have a subtraction problem with three numbers. You can apply this same process to any kind of subtraction problem with decimals. Keep practicing. See you in the next one.